Hey Shalligators, welcome back. Well, today we're going to keep talking about Kylie Jenner and the fallout from her situation with Forbes, who stripped her of her billionaire status. And we're not just going to talk about the money today. We're going to talk about a different angle. What happens and what to do when you're just not good enough for your parents, when you haven't lived up to their expectations, when you're not checking the boxes of what a daughter or a son should be. How do you move through life and be authentic and happy with that hanging over you? Because some news has come up that made me think that is what is driving this whole situation with Kylie, her dynamic with her mother, and in many ways, how Kris is ruining Kylie and is really putting up all these roadblocks to her happiness, but actually thinking that she's doing the opposite, and what we can learn from that and what we can get from that. And we talked about Kylie a little bit the other day, about, this fallout and this Forbes thing, and about how to live a life that's authentic and not be so driven by your insecurities that you have to lie, and how we can embrace our insecurities and flip them not into a bad story, but actually our best version of our stories. And speaking of stories, we talked in that video about the Black Lives Matter movement, this ghastly situation that's going on in America with George Floyd's death. It's just, it's unimaginable. It's not unimaginable because we don't have to imagine it. We've experienced it. We have seen this so many times. So I really asked you guys in that last video to contribute some resources, some links, petitions, people to vote for, places to donate, ways to be an ally to the movement that doesn't involve looting and throwing Molotov cocktails. Because while that might feel satisfying in the moment, what that's getting us as a society, I don't really know. I was saying in the other video, evil people are very organized. The MAGA group, they're organized as fuck. And we, on the other side, we're just like, I don't know. We got to think smarter and we got to get out in front of this thing, right? And I know that there's no perfect solution, of course. And so I'm asking you guys for micro solutions. What we can do on a micro level while we work on the macro, while we work on voting the right people, and while we work on overturning laws that are ridiculous and enacting better ones, what can we do on a micro level? So if you have other ideas, please share them. Whether you're a person of color or not, if you have resources, if you know good places to donate. One place I donate, and I put a link in my Instagram stories, been talking about this a lot on Insta. One place I donate is a food bank. I donate to New York City Food Bank just because I've been involved with them for years, but any food bank in your local area or another area, because if people can't eat, they can't resist. Resistance is a luxury. And that's why a lot of people in these protests are white people. Their jobs are secure. They might be corporate America. They've got the weekend off. They're working from home. They're not essential workers. They're not working for the sanitation department. They're not working for nursing homes. They have the luxury of going out and protesting. And when you're hungry, when you're just trying to put food on the table, you're not reading up on which measures and congressmen to vote for. I've got news for you. You are just trying to survive. So if we can help people with that, we give them the space to learn about how to resist, to learn about voting rights, to go out and register, to look for better jobs. Like if we can help people with the basics, they can rise up. Because evil people know we don't want them to have the basics. They're not dumb, they're evil. And they know that if they can oppress people and take away the basics, the healthcare, birth control, food access, stuff like that, make them afraid they're going to get deported, they're not going to rise up. They're afraid. They're just trying to make it. And you know what? Speaking of being deported, I don't give a shit what people say about me on the internet. Like, I really don't. Except some people said that I was like talking badly about people who get deported by ICE. And what they did is they took a sentence that I said in context of they took a phrase that I said in context of a larger sentence, and it came off like, my parents aren't getting deported by ICE. Do you know what I was saying? Do you want to know the full sentence? I don't remember what video it was in. I've done like 600. I don't catalog them all in my mind. But if I was talking about ICE, I was probably talking about politics. And if I was talking about politics, I was probably talking about voting. I am evangelical about voting. And I was probably saying, as I've said many times, that a true alpha is not just a pack leader, it's a pack builder, right? I'm an alpha female. I grew up very privileged. I am aware of it. I'm trying to become more aware. It's a journey. But one thing that my family taught me was, you know what, Shallon? Your needs, so many of your needs in the position you're in, they're taken care of. You don't have to worry about things. You can always afford to fly to France for an abortion. Your mama isn't a meth addict. Your daddy's not in a crooked nursing home. You know, your vote is not as life and death as it is for some people. So your vote needs to be for the people for whom it is life and death. And what I said was, because it isn't my family that's going to get deported. ICE isn't going to knock down my door. I vote for the people who are afraid of that. I vote to protect them. I vote for the people who cannot stand up for themselves. That's why I'm an alpha. And that's what I fucking said. Okay? And if you're so afraid of me and my power that you have to take a sentence out of context to try to tear me down, you know what? You should be afraid of me. Because I'm smarter than you. And this whole wolf pack we've got going on here, the Shalligators, the Shalantrage, you should be afraid of us too. You should be afraid of smart women and smart men who stand up and help other people. We are your worst nightmare. Anyway, let's talk about Kylie. Okay, so KJ. So we talked about Kylie before, and what came up that like reminded me of this, because you guys suggested like so many, look how red I got talking about that. Just so annoyed. And now my head and my neck are different shades. Perfect. Is that not the worst? But that's like the Kardashians all over, right? Their head and their hands and their neck, it's like 3 different shades. But what came up was The Sun UK, which is not a very reputable site. They're not. They did a story saying that Kylie is no longer talking to Kris. She like won't take her calls because she's so furious about this Forbes thing. She won't talk to her mom manager. And I was like, it just stuck with me, and I kept thinking about it. I was like, there's a topic in there, and it's super relevant. That tells me, if Kylie won't talk to Kris, that Kylie didn't know. That Kylie maybe didn't know about this whole thing. That maybe she didn't know that these possibly fake tax returns, who knows if they're, she didn't know about that. She didn't know that her bottom line was inflated. I mean, she knew about that bottom line. She can only worry about one bottom line at once, right? She picked the actual one. So, and I'm sure she thinks like, hey, I can't do everything. I have to outsource certain duties, finances, taxes. What do you think? Kylie's on HRBlock.com doing her own taxes? Please. And you trust your team. You especially trust them when they gave birth to you, right? And okay, The Sun isn't always the most reputable source, but I have heard this a lot about Kris, is that she keeps this layer of above and below in terms of information from her daughters for reasons, like I just said, like they can't know everything. They can't deal with everything. They're the talent. And just like on a football team, you don't have Odell Beckham Jr. like, oh, who's going to do the lawn? Does someone take care of the lawn and seeding it? Who's washing the uniforms? No. You do what you're sent to, Odell. You go out there, you play, you don't worry about anything else. Everything else is taken care of for you from your earnings and all this. And that's how a lot of athletes get fleeced, you know? That's how a lot of actors and a lot of people go through that. You just put your trust in people whom sometimes you shouldn't, but that's a whole other story. And I don't know. I have heard just so strongly that I'm very confident in what I'm saying, that Kris really does shield her daughters from a lot of things so that they have plausible deniability in public. That's very, very important, because most famous people aren't great liars. They are frequent liars, but they're not always great liars. You know, like the K's lie about their surgeries like all the time. You know, Khloe's new face. Okay. And it's important that they sell it in a plausible way. And so I would not be surprised if Kylie really didn't know the extent of any sort of duplicity that might have gone on. But look, even if that's not true, who cares, right? Kylie, Kris, the K's, any celebrity we talk about, they're just the gateway here. They're the gateway into what we do and what we talk about, because, you know, it's like, I could tell stories about like my own personal friends. You actually don't know them, which is going to make imparting the lesson a little harder than, say, using the Kardashians. But like I said, I have heard that this is true a lot, and I'm sure the message that Kylie has gotten from this is, oh, okay, so I was worth 300 million, say, maybe it was more, and that wasn't good enough, Mom, was it? It just wasn't good enough. So you had to say that I was worth $1 billion, because God forbid I was just worth 300 million or 700 million or 900 million. That just wasn't enough. That is the natural takeaway when your mom is your manager, right? If her manager was some dude she'd hired, she would have an emotional buffer zone. You know, that like, why are you trying to gas me up like that? I was fine being 300. It wouldn't feel like this personal rejection like it is when it's your parent. And I know that most of us aren't Kylie Jenner dealing with our mom as our manager, But we are probably dealing with our mom as our like emotional rubric. We deal with our parents accepting or rejecting every single one of our decisions. And it is agony. It is oppressive, horrible, endless agony. It's a nightmare. And just because Kylie's famous, and just because she's rich, and just because she's a mom herself, doesn't mean she's immune to that either. If anything, she's more sensitive to it because she has less people in her life than you or I. There's no new friends at her level. There's no new friends. She doesn't get to go to Target, go to the bars, go on Tinder. Nope. Those walls are sealed. So whoever is on the inside, they loom so much larger in her life because there's no chance of filtering that out. And this is all made more intense by the fact that it's her mom. So there really isn't any filtering her out. There's no second mom to go get. You know? So I feel for her on this. So what can we learn? Because like I said, this might not be relatable logistical circumstances, but emotionally, this is very relatable. This is very relatable. When no matter what you achieve, you have a parent who's like, is that all? Well, why wasn't it this? Well, why wasn't it better? I've told you guys a story of when I was in 4th grade and I worked crazy hard on this biography. And we had the hardest teacher in the school, Mr. Soderbergh, blah, and I got an A-, which was like crazy, like setting the curve. And I brought it home and I was so proud of it. And my grandmother was like, why the minus? And I just like shattered like a leaf. I shattered. And I know she was saying that because she thinks of me as A+. You're A+. Why isn't everyone giving you an A+? I know how hard you worked on that. That was an A+ paper, right? But your logic and your heart don't really talk a lot. Not a lot of informational flow back and forth from those two things. All I felt, I heard the logic, but I felt the rejection. I felt that's not good enough. Your best, not good enough. And people can interpret that in a lot of different ways. That message manifests in a lot of different ways. For some of us, we give up. Oh, nothing's ever going to be good enough. Why do I try? For other people, me, I'm like, I am shifting into the highest gear possible. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to achieve all the things. I'm going to achieve all the things. Early, faster, stronger, better, harder, bigger, louder. Because no one is ever going to say that I'm an A- again. Never. And that burrowed real deep. Now, you can say it had a pop. Ooh, there's a hummingbird. Hi. Oh, he's looking right at me. Hi. Oh. Hi. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. He was right there. It's like, oh, who are you? That burrows deep. And like I said, it had sort of a positive outcome for me. I'm a high achiever, but there's a downside to everything. I'm a high achiever in my career. I don't feel like I've achieved anything particularly significant in my personal life. I mean, when I have an incredible group of friends and that is an achievement for sure, but like I'm not married, I don't have kids, I don't have a dog or a house or a this or that, like, you know, those not arbitrary, but those like on paper box checks. And I've said before in videos, it's like when my family would make some sort of sentiment about that, like, oh, you're not married. I'm like, do you know what you raised? You raised a nerd. You raised a nerd. And what do nerds do? They work. They achieve. They don't go to MIT and get all these graduate degrees and go home and birth. Okay? That's not what they do. Not like I have an MIT graduate degree, but you get what I'm saying. And I know you have felt this feeling too. I know you felt this feeling. And maybe it doesn't really matter what age you are, but it's like at some point, like your parental expectations will shift. You know, it's like, I know our generation, we're not the stay-at-home mom generation necessarily like the Great Depression generation was, where that was what was achieved of you. And no, if you went to college, like cool, but that's definitely not the norm. No, we were going to college, we were working, like that's the norm, you know? And then I know a lot of my friends have felt that shift. It's like, well, when are you going to have a kid? It's like, dude, I don't know, man. I just got a corner office. Like, get off my back. But it burrows in. Why? Because we are biologically hardwired to please these people. We are. It's a survival instinct. Our parents got to like us because they got to keep us alive. And that keeps going. That's the gift and the curse of being a human being, Animals, they grow up, they leave the nest, they fly the way they make their own nest. You know, very few animals, talked about this before, except for whales, better than all of us, will stick with their parent their entire life cycle. But we do largely, you know, in many, many, many ways. And so the influence sticks too, and it impedes our independence, and the byproduct is our authenticity. We talked a lot about authenticity lately on the last Kylie Jenner, how to be authentic, how to be okay with your insecurities and turn them into something positive instead of like this horrible social weapon. And now we're going to talk about authenticity again, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. So if you're laboring under the oppressive umbrella of your family expectations, the first thing you got to do is get clear on how real they actually are. How real are they? Because just like my grandmother's comment, why the minus? That was a probably offhanded comment. I don't think she ever remembered it. It was just, bleh. And in that way, but it still had such a rooting effect on me. Your parents might say things off the cuff like, don't you want a baby? Don't you want to have a baby? And you're like, and they just mean it in just a very breezy, casual way. But because it comes from a place that's so weighted and anchored, it's not breezy at all to me. Actually, it's fucking me up, fucking my whole life. Thanks. So get clear on really what these expectations are. Are they imagined? Are they perceived? Sit down and be like, Mom, do you really want me to have a baby now? She'll probably be like, no, I just want you to stop dating douches who you know will never be the dude you want to have a baby with. You're like, oh, okay. But sometimes these expectations are not perception. They are very real. They are very real. I know a lot of you guys come from families who are very traditional. Maybe they're very religious, and it is not perception that they want you to marry a Jewish guy. No. You're going to marry a Muslim dude too. You're going to move back to the home country. You're going to stay here. You're never going to leave the small town, whatever it might be. So if they are real, okay, I want you to sit down with your parents and I want you to ask them, what do you want from my life? What do you want from my life? Now, the right answer, because there is a right answer, is I want you to be happy. I want you to be independent, authentic, and happy. And if we are lucky, that is exactly what we hear, okay? But sometimes we don't hear that. I want you to marry a Jewish doctor. I want you to move back to Nebraska. I want you to have 10 babies by the time you're 30. You're like, ugh. Okay. Then you ask them why. Why do you want that from me? And listen to what they had to say. Why do you want that from me? Why do you want me to marry a doctor? Well, because then you're going to have financial security. You know, he's going to be rich. He's always going to be employed. Okay. What our parents want, they want to keep us alive. We are hardwired to love them to stay alive. They're hardwired to keep us alive too, you know? And so their version of happiness for us almost always circles back to safety. Almost always circles back to safety. And sometimes safety is you go with what the known path is, okay? No, you don't move out until you're married. No, you don't go to graduate school. No, you don't even go to college. You walk the same path because that is the path that has been walked. That is the path that is safe. There's scouts down that path. They know exactly where it leads, and it might not lead someplace great, but it doesn't drop you off a cliff like all these other crazy paths might. So when you can look at your parents and be like, what they're after is safety. Okay. What Kris Jenner is after is safety. And it's perverted, but it's in there somewhere because she's like, okay, if Kylie is a billionaire, then no one will ever doubt her again. And if no one doubts her again, she's never going to go broke. And that gives her freedom. She can do whatever she wants with the next 70 years of her life. I am giving her freedom. And what makes you feel safer than being free? That no one is coming against you, that no one can say anything to you, no one can take away what you have, right? It's twisted, it gets a little perverted, and what the message is to Kylie is perhaps, you don't think I can do this on my own. You think I'm so stupid that I have to be a billionaire in order to survive. People have to think that I'm a billionaire in order to survive because you don't think I'm smart enough to make it on my own and make my own decisions and repel my own borders. And again, That's probably not how Kris feels about her, but that is what Kylie hears, and that is what she feels. And that's how a lot of us feel. You think I'm so dumb and so useless on my own that if I don't marry a doctor, I'm gonna sink like a stone? My only value is my vag and what I can birth out of it? That's what you think of me? But it's important to take the personalization out of this. And I know, this is your parents. How can you, what do you mean it's not personal? They're personally saying to me, they personally gave birth to me, like, hello? But you have to look at it from that filter of safety. Safety, safety, safety. How does their vision for me translate to safety? And it might be a few steps until you get there. So here's what you can do to combat it. I'm sorry, there's one hair in my eye. Ah! Okay, I'm just gonna go with that. You tell them why, here and now, and on the path you're on, you are safe. Mom, I'm not married, that's true. But that means I'm safe. First of all, I'm not splashing out on a wedding. Okay, I have money in savings right now. I can live wherever I want. I'm not tied to someone else's family and maybe their weird religion, or not weird religion, but they're weird like traditions and stuff that I don't want to be part of, and that's going to take me away from you. I'm on a path. Do you know how much money I'm going to make in 5 years? Throw open your books, give her a chart, show her. Combat the paranoia and the spirals of my daughter isn't safe, she's not safe, with facts. And if you don't have facts, fucking get some, girl. This is your wake-up call. You don't want your parents in control of your life? Get in control of it yourself. Oh, Shallon, that's so harsh. I know, life is harsh, baby girl. And guess what? I'm life. I'm knocking at your door. I'm telling you. If you don't want people to constantly interfere in your life and have a say over it, you better have a plan. Otherwise, they kind of do feel like they have a say. You're living under their roof. You're not making your own money, and the money you do make, you're blowing it at Sephora. Okay. They do get a vote. They do get a vote. And it's scary and it sucks to have to rein it in, live that life of discipline. But on the flip side of discipline is freedom. There is freedom in restraint. There is freedom in restraint. I first heard that from Jack White. Maybe it's a BDSM phrase. I'm not sure. But it means that when you live that life of discipline, you are calling the shots now. You are achieving that freedom. You're moving closer towards that freedom, that personal safety. Then now you don't have to marry the doctor. You don't have to convert. You don't have to stay in your hometown. You can do whatever you want. You're Kylie Jenner, okay? In a good way. Also recognize that they are on their own path here. And it's really, one of the things I've realized, and it's been like, a blessing and a curse as you get older and become an adult, is you realize that your parents are just people. They're just trying to figure shit out. They are doing the best they can with the history they have had, with what they have been taught, with their emotional toolbox, and maybe your toolbox is bigger. And you know what? Don't shit all over them for that. Because maybe your toolbox is bigger because they've lent you some tools, baby girl. Maybe they've sacrificed so that you can go to whatever college you want. Maybe they've sacrificed so that you can go lead a life that is full of more discovery than they were able to have. Maybe you live in a country that has more freedoms than they ever got to experience. Just try to look at them through the filter of humanity versus parent. Because like we've said before, we all want to assume that when our parents had us, it was just this influx of wisdom and they're making tons of good decisions and all this stuff. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes even if they have that wisdom and they see it, they don't have the capability to execute it. Logistically, emotionally, whatever. It's just not there. And as I've gotten older, and I've watched people I know have babies, and I'm like, wait, who the hell is letting you do that? You don't know what you're doing. You couldn't turn a document into a PDF. I've seen it. Don't have a baby. You recognize, you're like, you know what? They're going to pass on all of their issues to their kid, good and bad, and they're just a person. Like Katie sucked before she had a baby, she's going to suck afterwards. Or vice versa. It's like Chloe's smart, she's going to have smart kids, it's going to be fine. She's a person. She's just a person before you're a parent. So understand that they're on their own path. And we always think that our parents, we're all on the same path. We're on the same family. We're so similar, sort of, right? That how could our paths not be the same, but they're not. And this is adulthood. And eventually, we are all hitting the point. We all hit the point of, am I living my life for my parents or for myself? My parents, they had their shot. They got their shot. They got to live their life how they wanted, make all the decisions they wanted. And if they didn't, hey, so sad, too bad. I don't know, man. I wasn't even born. They lived their life ostensibly how they wanted to. And if they didn't have the freedoms that they wanted, again, that sucks. But that's not your mantle to carry. That's not your thing to undo. Like the classic example of this is like the mom who wanted to be a ballerina or an actress, and so she shoves her kids, like she becomes a stage mom, you know, because that's what she wanted to do. Me, I always wanted to play hockey. I mean, I did play hockey, but I didn't start until I was like in middle school. And so I'm like, my sons will play hockey straight out of the womb, straight from the birth canal into a pair of skates. Just, he's already sliding out. Just slide him right onto the ice, into the net. That's his crib. It's a net, you know, because I'm like, I didn't get to, and that's what they're going to do. And it's like, that's not fair. That might not be what my sons want to do. It will be, but that's like the classic example. And so when we look at it from that point and we magnify that with larger decisions, it gives us a little bit more clarity. So what is your path? Authenticity. That is the only word you need to follow to get on your path. Authenticity. And that sounds easy, like positivity, just be positive, just be confident, just like positive. But like anything else, you can quantify it down. You can break all of that shit down into real world action. And that's what we do here. We don't just like talk, just like positive. I don't know. We break it down into things we can put into action in our life. So the first thing you're going to do is come up with a mantra. A mantra that has helped me immensely is, I am okay just the way I am. It sounds simple and it sounds dumb. Like, oh, it's like a kid's book read by Kermit the Frog, you know? But try saying it to yourself. Let's say it together. I am okay just as I am. I'm a really anxious, a socially anxious person, which people don't expect because I'm very good at social stuff. I'm very good at small talk. I'm very socially dynamic and fluid. And I freak out. I'm like a duck, you know, calm on the surface, paddling like crazy beneath. And as a result of my social like panic, I eat too much or I drink too much because I'm just like pacify, pacify, pacify. And so that's a mantra my therapist gave me to dial me down, because when I'm reaching for snacks, it's because I'm trying to self-soothe. It's what my family did to soothe me. It was a whole thing. And so when I have this mantra, I'm okay. I'm okay just as I am. It just bridges that gap for the cravings. It dials it down so it's like, I don't need the peanut butter. I don't need to eat it straight from the jar, with an extra large spoon. I don't need to do it. And if in 20 minutes I still feel like I want to do it, all right, I can have some, but I never do. So that's our first work, the mantra. The second thing we're going to do to dial up authenticity, because before you can dial up authenticity, you got to dial down hysteria, right? Otherwise, you're just adding more hysteria onto a foundation of hysteria. So you got to like bring it down and start from a place of peace in yourself as much as you can. And what you can do to dial up the authenticity is to be authentic in a micro way. And we talked about micro things we can do earlier in this video with the Black Lives Matter movement and you know, combating evil in America is what we're doing. Micro things. Big movements start as little movements. Big changes in your life, big changes in the world start as little things. Big authenticity starts as little authenticity. So I want you to cultivate pure authenticity everywhere you can. Everywhere you can. Ideally, it is going to start big because you're going to maybe have that freedom. I hope that you do in your life where you're going to switch to a major that is authentic. It doesn't mean you got to do it for the rest of your life. It means you love it today. You see value in it today. And maybe that will change. That's all right. That's all right. But you're not going to stay in the major that your dad wants you to do. Just because he was an electrical engineer and I have to be an electrical engineer and I can't even switch to industrial engineering, he's going to freak out. No. You're going to follow the path that's authentic to you. Now, maybe it isn't that easy. Maybe you don't have that kind of freedom of movement to live where you want, to major in what you want, to work where you want, to worship how you want. I get it. So you're going to start small. You're going to watch shows that are authentic to you. And not just like, well, yeah, the Kardashians. No, baby girl. No. That's candy watching. I like candy. Well, no shit. Everyone likes candy. Does it feed you on an authentic level? No. What does feed you? documentaries about World War II. Okay, great. HGTV gardening shows. Excellent. Go there. Any animal program, specifically ones about otters. Get it. I want you to craft authenticity and control in every category you can. From what you wear, to what you eat, to the language that you use, to the discipline you craft in your life. You get up and make your bed. You floss. Brush your hair. Help other people. Call your grandmother once a week. Do your chores without being told. You want to be an adult? Act like an adult. Do things without being told. Sucks. Sucks so bad, right? I hate it. Because then, when you craft these micro authenticities, when inauthenticity comes knocking, whether it's from a parent or peer pressure from a friend or society in general, you can say, what this feeling I'm feeling is not, it's foreign to me, and it's inauthenticity. And it's foreign to me now because I've spent the last 3 weeks crafting authenticity. And I did that so that I could get comfortable with this feeling, so I could get really, really familiar with what real Shallon, who real Shallon actually is. So that when an opportunity or a criticism or whatever comes along, I have a much better categorization system going on. No, that ain't it. That ain't it. I don't need to order that. That's not authentic to me anymore. Old me would have ordered, like 3 plates of nachos and eaten them all, but that was anxiety Shallon. That wasn't authentic Shallon. Authentic Shallon? What do I feel like? I feel like kind of a salad, maybe some soup. That sounds good. Oh, micro authenticity begats more authenticity. And then, like I said, when those big things come knocking, you can accept or reject them, and it doesn't feel so personal. Because you can look at people who aren't being authentic or who moving through their own filter in life, their own deficient emotional toolbox, and you can see it as such. You can see it as such. You can see people who are like just kind of doing the best they can, or they're kind of doing the worst they can. They're an asshole, and we're definitely not going to listen to assholes, right? Why? But until you get authentic with you, until you know all of your emotional real estate, you don't really have any borders. You know? Where's my property line at? I don't know. I didn't bother to build a fence. Build a fucking fence. And you can't know where that fence line is until you walk that property, until you walk around it, until you know every inch of that emotional property and know every inch of yourself. And it's long and it's arduous and it sucks sometimes. But this is the work that matters. And I feel for Kylie because I've always said that she didn't get the chance to develop these tools. She had no restraint, right? No discipline. She was able to change her face, to change her self-esteem, and then profit off of that, which just fueled this face change. I mean, she can never go back. That is not her brand. Her brand isn't all natural beauty. No, you know? And if she had been restrained a little bit more by a parent who was like, you're not getting lip injections at 7. You're not getting lip injections. You're going to go to therapy. We're going to get you in sports. We're going to teach you how to love yourself. We're going to bring you down to the LA County mission, and we're going to have you serve homeless people every week, okay? That's how you're going to develop self-esteem, not at the end of the needle. Then that restraint, she would have found that freedom. The freedom to get creative, to get her emotional needs met. But you know what? When you have every option to do that in an unhealthy way, who's going to take the hard way? Who's going to take the hard way when you can take the easy way? But the irony is, the easy way becomes the hard way because you get boxed in and you find yourself without tools, without emotional tools. And then when you don't have emotional tools, you are a turtle without a shell. You have to rely on other people to figure shit out for you. Cold-blooded. See how it all comes back to that? I'm relying on the outside. I can't do this myself. I can't regulate my self-esteem. I can't be confident in who I am. And if I am, I don't know how to articulate it. I don't know how to tell my mom, I want to look at the books. I'm gonna be involved in all of this. This isn't okay with me. Hopefully, this is a step in that direction for Kylie. Hopefully, she's like, you know what? I put too much trust in other people. I put too much focus on these arbitrary optics of like covers of magazines and whatever. I hope that that's where it's going for her. I think she has so much potential. I think she's a cool person. She's a great mom. Ugh, that baby. I gotta get my hands on that baby. She's so cute. I only ever want a baby when I look at Kylie and Stormy. They just seem like they're having so much fun. They're so cute. Anyway, hopefully it's a step in the right direction for her. Hopefully. But we'll see, and time will tell. But in the meantime, you got work to do. Come up with that mantra, get clear about the expectations, get clear about what they mean, and try that micro authenticity in your own life, and everything's gonna start to change. I promise. For more, click like and subscribe. We're doing more videos. Yes, I am here a few more days in California, and then head off to my new destination. Crazy. So click like and subscribe, like I said, and be sure to follow me on Instagram where you guys can weigh in on video topics and, again, get some ways to help in the current movement that's going on and share some stories. Find me on Insta at ShallonXO. See you later, Shalloners.